Welcome, everybody, to the RnR Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the RnR Catcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Foley. I'm joined with my co-host, Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans of the RnR, the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. And we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Gear Up Sports. Gear Up Sports is a youth sports platform focusing on solving the uniform and apparel headache for coaches. If you're a youth or high school coach and need uniforms or player packs, please contact them at www.gearupwithus.com and make sure to mention the RnR Catcast. We're joined tonight with our good buddy Zach Levere and the voice of the Bobcats Keaton Gillogly. Guys, how you doing tonight?
I'm feeling good. I'm ready to talk some football. You guys have my only content of the week, so I'm ready to get some stuff out.
All right. Exclusive. You heard it.
Boys, with my I can't believe I missed the Northern Colorado game and I missed the Utah Tech game, but I feel like I see Keaton just every week at a Bobcat game and I go and say hi. And somehow he's nice enough to always come on and give me time. So thank you for coming on, man.
Hi, man. Happy to do it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, listeners will be enjoying this one. Let's give a little show rundown. We're going to talk the FCS Top 25 as we normally do. And then we're going to get right into the stats. Coach Vegan didn't have a presser this week, so we won't talk that. We'll come back next week. We'll give some information on the upcoming Eastern Washington game and some injury updates. I did a little bit of texting today. No news on Ty McCullough, unless you guys have some news on his shoulder. That's shaking some heads. I'm not seeing that, so we'll just do that. But then we're just going to kind of chop it up with Keaton and talk a little bit where Montana State is at, field some Golden Coolie questions, and just general have some good times talking Bobcat football. But first, we've got to talk about what's in our Golden Coolies.
What's in your Golden Coolie?
So terrible. All right.
Oh,
I'll let
Thorny.
the guests go first. Keaton, what do you got?
Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta.
Oh, beautiful.
I'm rocking the Hell or High Watermelon 21st Amendment Brewery. It's the watermelon beer from San Francisco. It's only a seasonal beer. So it's a nice cool sipper, and bought it because don't know how much longer they'll be selling it, and there is technically still baseball on, so kind of makes me feel like there's still a twinge of summer when I sip it.
Nice, man. Foley, what do you got?
So I had a listener come down and visit me in Spokane last week, CNC Cat from Bobcat Nation. His name is Jonathan, and he brought me 2 6-packs of beer. I'm drinking one that he brought. It's from Map Brewing. It's called Party Mexican Lager.
It's a good one.
So, yeah.
That was my river beer this summer.
Was it?
Yeah,
smart.
it was.
Yeah. Thanks, Jonathan.
All
All
right,
right, I'm
I'll
back.
go.
What I miss?
Beer talk.
Beer talk. Well, I realized I was muted when I was trying to introduce the segment, and I was like, you're interrupting me, Zach. And I realized I was muted. What's in your Golden Coolie? Did you say it? It's brought to you by Shea Richter. Go see Wilbur Ellis, company up there in Fort Benton for all your farming and fertilizer needs. Let me get my beer in real quick here. I got the Stemma Brewing, which is a brewery out here in Bellingham, Washington. It's a fest beer, so like their take on like an Oktoberfest, and it's pretty tasty, man. I'm really digging the Oktoberfest German beer stuff right now. I'm all about it.
Nice. I got a Kettle House White Stout, pretty good. And then I got a secondary beer, which is the Salmon Fly Honey Rye Madison River Brewing out here in Belgrade, which is right by the airport. So if you're looking for a place to go after a trip or a vacation, you don't want your vacation to go down there. It's a cool little tap room.
Wondering what's a white stout?
I mean, it's got a very nice color to it, but I was expecting
see.
a darker beer.
Gotcha. All right.
What's
For
the
our
alcohol
listeners'
content on that
visual
thing?
6, I want to say. Not too bad.
Not too stouty.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's get into the FCS stats top 25. I think us three shared about 16 text messages before this came out this morning, contemplating where Montana State was going to land. Montana State does land at number 2, 8-0 in the country, gaining 16 first place votes. North Dakota State rocketed to number 1 after beating South Dakota State in Fargo last week. They're 7-1, previously number 2. They got 40 first place votes, and that puts South Dakota State at number 3. And Thorny, I think your biggest concern was they're going to leave Montana State at number 3, and this was going to be a big deal because of playoff seedings. And we'll get into that here in a moment, but let's run down a little bit more through there. I'm not going to do it this week. UC Davis coming in at number 5. I forget those guys every week. And there they are. Davis is number 5, probably the top ranking they've ever had, maybe ever. I'm not sure. I didn't research that, but it seems like I don't think Davis has ever been number 5. Well, there they are. So Tarleton State coming in at number 8. Montana moved up from a number 11 to number 9. So they squeaked in, just holding idle over there in Missoula. Idaho comes up from 13 after we shellacked them. They beat Cal Poly in the Kippy Dome, so they're number 11. And I do believe that is it for the Big Sky. Yeah, I don't see any. I see that Sac State and Northern Arizona are getting votes, but they are not in the top 25. So I do believe there is your Big Sky top 25.
Yeah, the bottom of the Big Sky kind of fell out.
Yeah, they did.
What do you think, Keaton? What do you think? Bobcats number 2. How's that feel?
Feels pretty good, right? I mean, it's nice, but they don't really hand out any jewelry for being number 2 through October. So it's nice. Done what you're supposed to do to this point. Both SDSU and NDSU have multiple ranked games left. Cats still do as well. But I think the biggest thing here, the most exciting part, is that everything is still, the destiny is still within your own hands here. If you just keep taking care of business, you got a shot to set yourself up for a potential home semifinal game. And that's really what it's all about here. So feeling good. This is where it's supposed to be right now. And, excited for this November slate, because that's when things really ramp up here.
Are you surprised South Dakota State didn't get a single first place vote anymore?
A little. Just, I mean, that game was on the road for them. I was more concerned about Montana State sticking at 3 if NDSU had won that game, because if number 1 goes to number 2 and they lose a tight game, which they did, I could understand the reasoning behind that. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, but it felt like it was what was right. And that game was super even, I mean, if NDSU had gone to Brookings, I'm pretty sure, SDSU would have won that game. So yeah, I'm a little surprised they didn't at least get some, but at the end of the day, NDSU did beat the number 1 team, so they deserve a lot of votes.
Yeah, the voters got it all right this time.
For now.
I like it. Yeah, this time. Doesn't happen too often, but I'm like, all right. I agree.
Hey, quick thoughts real quick. Anybody can jump in on this. What would your take be if Montana State played in middle October instead of at the end of the last game of the season?
Oh, I would hate it. I would hate it so much. I was actually just talking about this in the car ride on the way back from Portland State, talking about how grateful I am that game now is traditionally at the end of November, because it wasn't always that way. And like, there's something that builds through the whole season, knowing that's coming. Like, I'm so grateful that game is in October. And like, at the end of the year, everybody gets to be basically their fully formed self. Maybe they're a little banged up, but everybody gets to be their fully formed self. There's always going to be something on the line. And even if one program were to have a bad year, like, you always have that last redeeming game at the end of the year to look forward to. So I love it. I love the pace of it and the way it builds throughout the year.
Yeah, I like that perspective. One team maybe not having a great year, but you can go out with a little high note, take down your rival who might be having a good year. Never really consider that angle of it. I like that.
I'm a Cubs fan, so I'm all about, and a Bears fan, so I'm all about trying to end my rival stuff, and doesn't usually come through too well.
I'm taking us all down with us if we're going down.
Beating the Packers at the end of the year is your guys' Super Bowl.
One day it will happen.
Caleb Williams, he's going to do it.
Well, we'll see.
Ooh, that's a bold take.
I've always been I heard it a couple years ago. I think it was Coulter, like 3 or 4 years ago, talked about it. And it made sense for me to think about the game in the middle of October just for picking up the pieces, for lack of a better term, gaining some momentum going into the playoffs. I think this game doesn't hurt the loser for the Dakota Marker game as much as, like, let's say Montana State falls or U of M falls because you get shellacked in the Cat Grizz game, and then you're left, and the playoff committee looks at that and goes, well, who are they right now? And that, I think, influences some of the seeding. But I do like it at the end as well. So it's just, like, back and forth for me.
I mean, the Cats still got a seed last year, despite that what felt like a lopsided loss last year. I think the committee understands when you go into these other places, like, it's a big deal. And theoretically, both teams, I mean, at least right now, are ranked highly. So if you go into that, you shouldn't fall theoretically too far. Like if the rankings were today and Montana State won by 3 scores against the Grizzlies, like, how far would the Grizzlies really actually fall in the rankings in that? And theoretically, hopefully, you have that bye after the regular season as well, if you're where you want to be. So feels like there's some room for that to kind of pick up some of the pieces in that regard too. And I mean, you look 2 years ago, Montana lost in that the game here in Bozeman, and they were able to kind of pick up the pieces and at least get a home win in that first, because they had to play that first weekend, which is a tight turnaround, and they were able to get going at least a little bit. So yeah, I get that, but I mean, come on. Nothing else matters. You just got to beat those guys. That's really what matters.
It makes for the most monumental version of the game possible, having it the last game.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You brought up the Montana bye. Because I'm a sicko, I looked at Eakers today, and they had a official bye week game day thread. And some of the comments, one of my favorite comments was, end of the first quarter, bye week 14, Montana 3. And then under it said, oh, look, Weber just scored again. And just great, hating your team for that. It was perfect.
They're a little traumatized over there still, I think.
I mean, you could go to therapy, or you can post on message boards. Like, it's
Yes.
a little cheaper to do that.
It is therapy.
Message boards are the best. It's just the best. All right, Foley. Guide the ship.
All
Well,
right.
he's just like leaning back in his chair doing nothing over there.
I was just thinking about the Grizzlies a little bit. We can talk about them later, but no. Okay.
I always
all right.
steer us
Sounds
away
good.
from that on the show.
Okay.
It's a
all right.
Bobcat show.
Is it Grizzlies or Jeff Cho? What takes up more of your mind?
What if Jeff
What's
Choate came
living
back to
rent
coach
free
the
in
Grizzlies?
Ryan's
What would
mind
you do,
tonight?
Foley?
Also for the listeners, I made the meme of is it Wolverine sitting in his bed looking at the photo, and I put Foley's face over it and a picture of Jeff Choate.
Yes.
So that's my
Still
new
hard,
meme.
Jeff Choate.
It tracks.
Every
Still
time
do.
you mention it, the meme's getting posted in the group chat.
And
Okay, well, I mean, so let's wrap up this Stats FCS. I always take this quote from Mike Kramer. We're going into Big Man Month, and November's what it's all about, boys, when it comes to FCS college football. And so Montana State has a tough slate ahead of them. But this guy, Ryan Foley, has never felt probably as optimistic for Bobcat football as I do right now. And that's something to be said, because 20, 30 years of following these Bobcats, it hurts sometimes. It hurts. It conditions you to feel certain ways, but I feel a lot of optimism right now as a Bobcat. All right, Thorny, I think we need to introduce our stats segment, because let's get into the stats.
all right, well, the stats is brought to you by Pronghorn Wealth Management. We got a new sponsor for the segment.
Woohoo!
If you haven't looked at the stats on your company's 401k since Jeff Choate was coach, reach out to Kendall at Pronghorn Wealth to benchmark your current plan fees at pronghornwealth.com. Hey, I did it. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Bobcats travel to Hillsboro. I'm really interested to hear your take on Hillsboro, Keaton, in a minute. 44-14, dominating fashion for the Bobcats. I don't have the right pages pulled up. Knocking out of the park. All right. So the Cats, 27 first downs for the Portland State, just 18. 6 for 10 for the Bobcats, continuing their trend of having a really good third down percentages. 5 for 12 for Portland State. Cats, 607 yards of total offense. This is the first time I'm actually looking at these stats. That's crazy. 235 for Portland State. 284 through the air on 19 to 28 passing and 10.1 yards per pass. I think we were asked the over and under on Tommy at like 140, and we both said under, I believe. Pretty wrong on that. But just 86 yards for the Vikings, 14 to 22. So 14 completions for 86 yards, 3.9 yards per attempt. That's some pretty solid defense there with one interception thrown by Chachere. 323 yards of on the ground for the Bobcats, 39 carries for 8.3 yards per carry, 149 for the Vikings on 34 attempts for 4.4 yards per carry. 10 penalties on the Bobcats, 114 yards. That will be a talking point here later on. 6 penalties on the Vikings for 57 yards. Just that one turnover I mentioned already. And the Bobcats, as usual, win that time of possession, 34 minutes and 6 seconds to 25 minutes and 54 seconds.
Some individual stats. We have Tommy going through the air 15 for 20 for 239 with 3 touchdowns. Only had 4 touches on the ground for 34 yards. Chance Wilson, he was 4 for 8 for 45 yards. The guy that I was most impressed with on the offense was Scotty Humphrey. We had 14 touches for 160. That's all in the first half, fellas. 2 touchdowns with a long of 50. He got caught from behind, though. Like, come on, Scotchy, come on.
He's looking for contact, man.
A little work upon for him right there.
Somebody come and contact
He also had only the second time this year where he was tackled behind the line of scrimmage. He came into this game with -1 yard. That was it. So this was only the second time that's happened. It was on that 4th down stop.
4th down, yep.
That's
Which was a terrible play call, by the way. Colson Kuhn, 9 for 57. Jared White, it was good to see him get more touches. I'm a huge Jared White fan. 6 for 50. He had 1 catch for 24 yards. And 1 touchdown as well.
Yeah, I got another one for you on that. 4 of his last 5 receptions have gone for a touchdown from last year to this year.
Ooh,
dang.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Man, he
Love
got
the
some
running
good
backs
stats.
out
All
of the
right.
backfield
Yeah, all
catching
right.
some passes.
Ontario Latin Henley, it was the first time we saw him playing. He was not the first time he was in the game. He's been sporadically in
This was
for
his third.
kickoffs.
Yeah, it was his 3rd game.
You doing the special teams before this?
Yeah. Well, he's taking a couple kickoffs in place of Marquis back there. He was 3 for 13 and 3 for 21 through the air. Had a couple swing passes to him. Taco had 3 catches for 78 with a touchdown, along of 57. Just a zipper pass. That was such a good play. Rohan Jones. No, that's who I'm thinking of. Was the zipper pass? Was Rohan Jones had 2 for 50, 1 touchdown with the long of 48, and with contact at the 10-yard line, dragged probably like 3 or 4 Vikings in and wielding the ball carelessly through the air. I'm pretty sure Coach Vegan is going to get after him because that thing could have been knocked out at the goal line. That would have been something. Ryan
That dude
Schlepp
is a monster.
Oh man, such a weapon. When we lost Snell, we were all like in the dumps. He's never made me forget Snell, but just like fits that role so perfectly. Anyways, thank you, Zach, for getting us off track right there.
Anytime.
Rylan Schlepp, he had 1 catch for 37 yards. Hunter Provience, looks like all the tight ends. Throw the damn ball to the tight ends, right? Hunter Provience, 1 catch for 24 yards. Ty McCullough, 3 for 18. Or that might be a 19. Can't read my own handwriting there.
It's 19.
Lanyata, Junior Alexander, 1 for 12. Ryan King was 2 for 12. Zachary Dotson Green, there's a name you don't hear very often. He gets in the second half. He had 1 catch for 3. Montana State didn't post their defensive stats. They've been kind of late on that. So sorry, defensive players, but I'm going to give props to Miles Jackson. Had an interception. Miles Sandstead, our kicker, was 3 for 3 on field goals, sneakily having a really good season. We're not talking about him enough. 28, 25, and 45. He was 5 for 5 on extra points. Bump over to Portland State real quick. Dante Sachere. Listen to this. So Sachere was 200 game, or had a 200 stat line last week. I'm sure you guys know it because you're just giggling over there. He was 11 for 18 for 64 through the air, and he had 7 rushes for 4 yards. 7 rushes for 4 yards. Considering how slippery he was in the first quarter, that's impressive. And I want to give props to Neil Daly. who was filling in for Bryce Grebe, who's filling in for Danny Yu. 6'3", 230. The guy looks like Braden Conkle, looks like a hybrid between Conkle and Troy Anderson to me. 6 tackles, 5 solo. I think 2 tackles for a loss and a sack, in which he had such great contain. He didn't over pursue. I was so impressed. That was such a headsy play for a guy who doesn't play a lot right there. Those are your stats.
Well, hold on. You got any more interesting stats, Keaton?
No, those were the lead ones. It was the first career sack for Neil Daly, and I think the underrated stat here was the 4 for 8 from Chance Wilson. When he got into the game, it really felt like they were trying to see and have him orchestrate a little bit of a pass game, and that was kind of the first time we had seen that. So I thought that was interesting to see a couple of those passes and just kind of the way he was doing that. He had a little bit of happy feet at times, but overall looked like he was in control and making some good decisions. So I thought that was a lot of fun to watch what Chance was doing through the air. Because again, they really had only passed or handed the ball off since he had gotten in.
No, it was really good to see him actually trying to run a little bit of the offense. If that's the guy that's number 2, then they're going to roll with him. Then he needs to get those kind of reps, not just handing the ball off. So good to see.
417 first half yards. Balance basically 200 and 200 too is insane.
And still calling timeouts in that final 4 minutes or 2 minutes to make sure you can get some more points, which I love to see.
I love that. That was aggressive. I loved it.
Yeah.
Perfectly executed too. Like absolutely to the T. We had a scoring drive. Was it 4 plays in 30 seconds? What was that?
We had a 50-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, that was the Rohan Jones one, but we only took 30 seconds.
It was 4 plays, 30 seconds, 74 yards.
Daggone, guys. I mean,
28 points in the second quarter.
Dang.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Where do you guys want to go from here? So that's it, guys. That's the show right there.
Yep.
I got a quick question for the second half since we kind of brought it up. It felt like my dad mentioned this in the second half, and then I went back and watched the film. It felt like Vegan was setting up with Chance Wilson some of those fade routes and stuff, almost different field goal looks for our special teams. So it felt like he was like trying to do some stuff, especially that 45-yarder. It's like, all right, it's 3rd and 8, and we're kind of going to run a fade route to the outside. And then Miles Sandstead comes out and nails a 45-yarder. But it just kind of felt like in that second half, we were just trying to, almost get the kicking game to get different looks down there towards the goal line. I saw that a little bit. That was just kind of a thought of, are we trying to just, move him around the field and see what he can do?
You talking about Sandstead?
Yeah, just kind of tactically, just seeing like where he can kick, what he was comfortable from, especially there.
Yeah, I think part of it too is just like, we don't need to go for it right here. Like if the game and time and score dictated that, then yeah, we can go for it. We feel comfortable, but this is the time and the place to let Sandstead take a few kicks and run that team out there. And they're looking clean. I mean, the way they get out there fast, they're on time. I mean, the snaps and holds have been good, and Sandstead's getting more and more confident. Yeah, I think it's a situation where it's like, okay, we can lean on this a little bit and put it in some kind of low leverage situations, because theoretically we hope there's some high leverage situations once, December hits.
Yep. We also didn't punt on Saturday.
Always.
I don't know if we brought that up.
Always good when that one happens.
18 punts on the year for the Cats.
Feels good.
Like if you go to the national stats page, Tom Stuber pointed this out. The minimum is like 25 punts.
So wow, he's not even close.
Brendan Hall is not even on the stats, but there's only 82 punters on there, so there's other teams that aren't meeting the requirements. I just thought that was pretty funny.
Here's another
interesting. What do you think Stanstead's range is, Keaton?
Well, as of right now, 45. No,
we've seen that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he tried that 51-yarder against Idaho. It looked like he had some leg there.
Yeah,
I think pressed into it, you can feel comfortable taking a shot at 50.
Yeah.
But I think anything under 40 is really all this offense needs. Like if you're trying to kick field goals over 40, then the offense is probably stalling out, and that's really the strength of this team. So yeah, I think we saw him take a 51-yard shot, and I mean I've seen him get up to that when he's warming up and stuff. So it's there. We'll see if it works depending on conditions and time to score.
Well, Foley, the fact that you said we're not talking about it, that's a huge turnaround from last year. We should be talking about it in the
goodness.
positive, but the fact that we're not even talking about the King game, we're not scared. I'm not like, every time we kick the ball, I'm like, can't wait for this to go wide left. So
Yeah, and credit Sandstead too, and the whole staff. Like, yeah, they could have gone out maybe and found something, but they didn't find anything in the transfer portal. And one of the lines that Vegan was given early in the year was, Sandstead, Kautzman deserve time for that development. Like, let's let them develop. There's an opportunity here to get better, and that is what we've seen. And so far, they've only missed what I think 3 kicks all year between PATs and field goals. So I mean, yeah, just. It's a developmental program. Let these guys figure it out a little bit, and that's what we're seeing, which is exciting.
Yeah,
Last year felt like the kickers had like a case of the yips, almost like a shortstop that was just going through a bad stretch. And Kotzman's injury allowed Sandstead to gain some momentum and just feel comfortable out there. And he's looking good, looking really good. So stoked for him.
I love that we kicked off the Portland State recap talking about field goals. You never know where this show is going to go. Talking about field goals for like 5 minutes.
The 40. I don't want to. I mean, I think it is important though. I mean, the fact that he hit 3. It is a big deal. Like that 45-yarder is legit. That was a legit kick at sea level. Right, we weren't up in Bozeman. We weren't up somewhere else. That was a legit 45-yarder. Obviously, the conditions were solid, but you're at sea level. That's a really big deal. And the way they've been running that thing out there is really, really important. And I think if we're going to stay on kicking here in special teams, like, obviously Brendan Hall doesn't give up a lot of kick returns. And last year, the 1 or 2 times we saw it, there were some fractures there. This year, we haven't seen that. The 3 or 4 times we have seen some kick returns, especially this last week, those guys have been locked down. That's a big deal. That's really, really important because you can have as many touchbacks as you want for 10 games, but if you don't get a touchback in that 11th or 12th game, and all of a sudden they return it and the game is on the line, like those guys have to stand up and execute. That's a big deal. That could flip a season or change the complexion of 2024 at any moment.
It was also pretty windy on Saturday.
Yeah, it was gusting.
That was another thing. It was gusting pretty hard through that stadium. So it wasn't like it was just, still making those kicks. He had to fight some wind.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It was one of the biggest questions we had going into the offseason.
Yeah.
That's a bit.
I promise that's not my first soapbox.
Love it.
I want to pivot a little bit to Tommy Mellott. Tommy Mellott, here's an interesting stat before we talk about just him as a senior. So he moves past Travis Lulay, who was 3rd for wins all time. And now he's tied with Paul Dennehy for 26 wins. Thorny, your guy, Daenerys McGee, our guy. We love Daenerys.
Talking about my guy.
Well,
Daenerys.
Well, this year you said you would pick Daenerys over Travis, and I can't. So I'm still on Team Travis there. Tommy Mellott, 26 wins, probably going to eclipse Daenerys here in a moment, but quietly got there. Quietly.
Mm-hmm. It is quiet.
Yeah. Pretty impressive.
Has he played in just 2 fourth quarters this year? I think at the airport, his dad mentioned to us that he had taken a snap in just 2 fourth quarters.
Oh my gosh. There's a stat for you.
Right. Was it just New Mexico? Well, he was playing in the 4th quarter at Utah Tech, right?
He went out before the 4th quarter, I'm pretty sure.
Was that okay? I thought
it was I thought it was right at the end of the quarter. He played in the ISU game. I know he played all the way through on that one.
Right.
I think those are the only 2 games he's taken a 4th quarter.
Was he done in the 4th quarter at Idaho?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Zach, do you think it's a good thing he's only... Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Hell yeah, it's a good thing.
It's a great thing for us because we're kicking butt, but also, I mean, he only has so many football games left in his lifetime career. He's not going pro after this, so this is kind of it. So feel bad for him a little bit on that because it's like, man, you only get so many snaps to play as a quarterback, but hey, it's the last ride.
Staying healthy though.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is it a bad thing for the team and Tommy and the offense essentially not to have that 4th quarter experience? Nope.
No, because I love what I'm seeing from Chance. And I think we need that.
I think you can also go back to the New Mexico game. I think if they didn't have that comeback in the New Mexico game, I think it would be a fair question. But A, we've seen Tommy in these situations a lot in his career. And B, they have the New Mexico comeback. Like, they've done it this year. So yeah, it was back in August in week 0, but you have that already, that proof of concept with this 24 team. So I think that New Mexico game plays a lot into that fair question of what are they going to look like when we see them in the fourth quarter. When they've needed it, they've looked good.
We've also seen several 2-minute drives in right before halftime, Portland State being a perfect example of that. So that's kind of a scenario type thing where you're getting him those reps that you would get maybe towards the end of a game. Maybe it's not as important, but he's still got to lead the team down, score before halftime, and they've been doing an excellent job of that. So I don't know, he's getting lots of reps otherwise. So I think it's overall a good thing. Keeps everybody fresh. Yep. Everybody's fresh, not just Tommy.
Yeah, fingers crossed on the fresh part. Let's see how we do after the bye week. No ACL this week. Hey, no ACL, no problem. That's all I wanted.
Well,
get out of Portland State with no ACL issues.
That's true. Time McCullough went down. That's a bummer. So there's always got to be like one little downer in all these wins, I feel.
Is the Bobcats on par with other teams as far as season-ending injuries, or is it just because we're fans of the Cats that we notice this and are talking about it?
I think it's pretty on par. Like, if you look around the league right now, like, almost 50% of the Big Sky has had to operate with a backup quarterback this year. And in some cases, they're third and fourth strings. So there's a lot of that going around right now. So yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where it's been really bunched. I mean, 3 season-ending injuries in 3 straight weeks is really devastating, and that's just bad luck. That wasn't poor planning or poor training or physicality or anything like that. That's just pure bad luck. And so, yeah, no, I think it's just, we just feel it because we follow this thing day in and day out. But yeah, this is about par for the course for a lot of places.
Wow. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Plus we got, we got some guys coming back after this week.
Yeah, and they were prepared for this. Like, it stinks, but the silver lining is watching this depth. Like, what did Vegan say in his opening press conference when we first got the job? We're going to build depth. Like, he's been talking about that since he got here, and we have now seen that. And some of these guys are going to get back, and we'll see how that keeps going. But the depth is important. And yeah, Tommy hasn't been playing in fourth quarters, but it means all these other guys have been, and those guys are now in a position where they're stepping up and they're needed. You never know which one is going to be the next guy that we're going to need to see step up and be relied on in crunch time.
Well, speaking of injuries, is Julius Davis going to play at Eastern? Do you know?
Yeah, he'll play at Eastern.
That's exciting. I don't know. How does that all fit now?
I think we'll see Julius and Scott Trey to start, and then start to incorporate Adam a little bit after that. We'll see what Adam's injury was and what the prognosis is for that. He was on the trip, but we'll see where that goes for that. But yeah, I think you start with Julius and Scott Trey and go from there, running with a little thunder, and then you make some decisions after that. And Adam, you could even see Adam get lined up as a slot receiver or with these other guys too. Not that I've seen anything in practice, but just he's a guy who was getting recruited as a wide receiver for some other schools as well. So yeah, and you never know what's going to happen when it comes to injuries. All those guys run really, really hard. So I bet they start with Julius and Scott Trey first, and then kind of go from there.
Can we put them both
Davis back on the field?
Can we put them both out there at the same time? We
can, yeah.
Holy cow! So does the Julius thing? Does that allow him to play the 4 games and then hold that red shirt?
Yeah, so we'll put the red shirt on the table. I haven't gotten confirmation if he is going to red shirt, but it is on the table. So yeah, and I did kind of feel like Julius was in an emergency situation, especially with the injuries when he got out to Portland State, and a bit of a dress rehearsal situation. Let's get you on the trip. Let's go through legitimate warm-ups, get the helmet on, pretend like you're going to, feel like you're going to play and get into that routine again. So, but yeah, no, the red shirt is on the table. Justice Perkins has a red shirt on the table now too, with only the 4 games left. So those are on the table. I don't know if they'll get used, and we'll see how it goes. And, I'll ask Coach about this next week for sure. But yeah, it's on the table now. So we'll see what happens.
I'm going to pray for Eastern's linebackers if they have to see Scott Trey and Julius Davis in the backfield.
Dude, it's going to be a straight brawl.
I don't want that job, Coach. Don't put me in, Coach. Please don't.
So, Keaton, what does Sane do then if Perkins comes in? Because Sane's been playing so good.
We have some Golden Cooley questions on that. I don't know who it is, but that's like a big question.
Yeah, no.
Right now.
I don't know. I think it's a really fair question. There's a lot of different things that they could be doing here, and I don't know what they're going to do yet. And I haven't really asked about it too much because it wasn't something. It's not here yet. But and even if we ask coach, he's not going to really give us a straight up answer probably on that. But it will definitely come up when I talk to him next week. But yeah, I don't know. I think center is such a tough position, man. So let's see how and when Justice comes back, and for Perkins, like that's a tough thing to step into the season like this at that center position. You come in as a running back, it's a little bit different. You're a little bit fresh, but there's just such a feel and a rhythm there. And obviously Cole Sane's been playing great. So I don't know if we see a rotation situation. I don't know if it goes straight to Perkins. I'm not sure how they feel about what Reed and Mastel have been doing over at left guard. I think they've looked good, but do you move one of those guys, Sane, into a guard position? How have they felt about Titans' performance so far this year? I mean, obviously the offensive line's been a freaking beast. So we're talking about the very nuanced things that I can't see. Like I'm not versed enough in offensive line to know this. So I'm just looking at this top line and what could be possible. If they feel like, if you feel like Cole Sane is a better right guard than Titan Fleischman is right tackle, well, then you could put Sane at right guard and Weir over to right tackle. If you feel like Justice just needs a little bit of time to work himself in, well, now maybe you rotate those guys based on series, but that comes with a whole other host of issues as well. How are they feeling about Burke and JT at left guard? Those guys have been rotating series to series. Do you want to move Cole into that rotation as well? So I'm not really sure, but all of that's on the table, and it's a really, really good problem to have. And frankly, I don't want to be grim here, but at the same time, we just saw Caden Dowler go down the day Drew Polidor got back, so you just never know what's going to happen here. So we'll see, but there's a lot on the table, and that's a good thing. This is that position flexibility they've been talking about.
It's hard to mess with something that's been working so well.
Right, totally, especially at the center position.
Yeah,
especially
we lost
center.
2 or 3 guys to the transfer portal last year.
It was 3 because Kettles went to Kennesaw State, and then Rush Reimer went to Cal. He's starting, and Ibedion went to Baylor, and he's starting.
Yeah, and we didn't skip a beat. And this team's offensive line is probably better than last year's, without a question.
Ways. Yeah, in some ways, yeah, they're just playing so smooth, so together, and there's just such such position flexibility. It's wild.
Wow.
Oh, if we could stop losing them to the portal, that'd be great. But it's not going to happen, so that's okay.
Zach, I was waiting for somebody to mention that better than last year kind of thread, because I do think we have some Golden Cooley questions on that, and I'll just ask it. Keaton, one of the biggest things that we want to know is just kind of juxtapose the 2023, 2024 Bobcats, because it seems like these Bobcats mentally, physically, and maybe not physically, but mentally, emotionally, they're just rising to the call, answering the call. They just are more laser focused this year to me. When I watch them, there's not a lack of with itness or that killer instinct that sometimes I wish they had last year. What are you seeing? What's the vibe around the team, and what's different this year?
Yeah, it's pretty. There's not really going to be any good answer. I don't think, and a lot of it's just going to be subjective conjecture, and you're just kind of guessing. But when I think back to last year, it was such a talented team. But I've used this analogy before. When you got to take your dog out for a walk when it's really, really cold, you got to go put those little shoes on them, and sometimes they don't really feel comfortable, and the right foot is up and the left foot, and it's all disjointed like that. In a lot of ways, that's kind of what the offense felt like to me last year. There was just all year, it was just kind of building to something, and it almost felt like it just never quite clicked as its best version of itself. It was close a lot of times, and the guys played great, and they played really, really hard, and there was a lot of talent, but for some reason it just didn't quite it never felt like they reached their ceiling. And I think we're starting to feel some of that now. So on the offensive side, we're seeing some of that, and the growth of Tommy is the biggest thing. He is a quarterback now, and just watching him run this offense as a the quarterback, like a traditional quarterback, it's so much fun to watch. So I think that's part of it. And there's a lot of pass catchers on this team, like a lot. Like I mean, even Ryan King's not catching many balls, but that guy is baby Megatron. Like he's got some freaking stick 'em in his hands, and all four of those tight ends can catch the football. All of them have catches for like 20 plus yards. Like there's a lot of pass catchers. So on the offensive side, it does feel like there's just a little bit more of a rhythm, and Tommy is a true quarterback right now, and it's amazing to witness, and I don't take it for granted for 1 second. On the defensive side, they look cleaner, they look more meshed together, they look more like they're just one, and I can't tell you specifically why that is, but the guys are just together. I think Bobby's got things going in the right direction, and I think Jody Owens has been an awesome addition to this thing. He's been so much fun to talk to, and he just, when I talk to the guys about him, they freaking love him. He coaches so hard in such a good way. And Bobby and Jody in particular, and Coach Howard, a lot of these guys, but particularly Jody and Bobby, having played here, and they just have so much cachet, and their words carry so much weight, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And the other part of it is, this is Vegan's fourth year. They've been running the same system now for a lot of these guys for 4 years. And, I think that goes into it a lot too. There was a lot of still of the choke guys on the roster last year. And, you had the coordinators who had kind of come from the outside with Brent. Now these are coordinators that have come up with these players, and have, one of the things you see with like Vegan and some of these other coaches is like, there's a little bit of a treadmill of coaches. They like to coach the coaches. It's something Logie likes to do. You see it in Binford. Like they like to coach the coaches. And so watching these coaches ascend, I think also helps the players have even more respect for that, and their words carry more. So yeah, everything just looks more together on defense, and they've got some speed too. I do feel like they're just a little bit faster right now for whatever reason, and maybe that's just because they're playing together. But that's kind of what I'm seeing, and some of that could probably just be hot air, and who knows. But yeah, everything just looks more together, and the offense looks like it's more at a ceiling now than it did last year.
I saw Foley over there grinning when you're talking about Jody Owens. He fully loves that guy. We love that guy. Yeah. I think the defense is playing faster. I'm not sure if they're straight line speed faster, but they are playing faster, and that's a big improvement. That's just my biggest takeaway is like they just look like they're flying around. They just look fast out there, and the commentators on ESPN2 were commenting about it. Like it's just like we looked fast. And I don't know if it's simplified or they just know where they're going or they've been in the system for a long time. Then I don't know. It's just. Yeah, it just looks a lot better. Passing the eye test.
Keaton, you mentioned, I think it was some interview about how you keep getting the 1-0. They keep saying that 1-0 mentality, and you thought it was a little cliche at the beginning, but they seem to really be bought in. One thing I noticed out in Portland with, a crowd of just 3,000, and I noticed at Idaho State too, is Danny Yu seems like kind of the spiritual leader of not just the defense, but the team. And boy, he gives one fiery pregame speech before the team hits the field. I'll say that. Quite a few words we probably don't want to repeat that he uses, but it gets everybody juiced up, and he's kind of the guy. And he was, even though he's not, padded up for this one, what kind of is that 1-0 mentality been like, from thinking it's kind of a cliche to seeing like these guys buy in? And I was worried about that too before Portland, of you just come off an Idaho game with 22,000. Now you got to play in front of 3,000 and you don't miss a beat. How does that kind of happen with the 1-0 stuff?
Yeah. I got into this with Culture Nuanez a little bit on one of the Big Sky breakdowns. And I'll tell a similar story that I told there. Yeah, it does sound cliche. And, one of the things that happens here is coaches try to implement their philosophy, right? Like you're trying to get these guys to all buy into the same thing. And one of the things Coach Vegan clearly tries to get these guys to buy into is to not ride the wave week to week, to be steady. And I even asked him about this on Catch At last week, where it was like, why? How are you the same person every day? Because this is hard. Even I go up and down, and I got nothing on the field. I didn't send the blitz or call that pass. And you talked about just wanting to have that type of consistency, and we see it week in and week out in college football. It's one of college football's most endearing qualities is the wave. And at the same time, coaches are trying to avoid that high and that low. So you're trying to figure out a way to get these guys to feel that, and it's supposed to impact them. And I told the story again on on with Nuanez, but I was in professional baseball when they first started hiring mental skills coaches. And I did an interview with Andy McKay, who's now one of the directors of player development for the Mariners. And he was one of the first mental skills coaches hired by a major league team with the Rockies when the Rockies were our affiliate. So I got to know him a little bit and talk to him about some of this stuff. But one of the things that stands out to me in one of the interviews I did with him was essentially he was talking about, I've always been building this philosophy, and the goal has always been to pare it down. And his goal, and a lot of these mental skills coaches' goals, are to take these things that everybody's kind of heard before, but you got to get it all the way down into just like one sentence. The goal is to get all these philosophies down into one symbol, one sign, like one thing that can just be that rallying cry. And it's a really hard thing to do. And the joke when I was talking to him was like, so you're going to have your entire coaching philosophy down to basically one tweet. And he was like, yeah, like that's really literally the goal. And so when you're trying to get the guys to buy in to not ride that wave, how do you do that? And it slowly works its way down like a funnel, like an upside down pyramid to get to one thing. And this year it just happened to settle on going 1-0 every week. And, I think there's a case to be made that maybe they were looking a little bit ahead last year and there was a little bit of a big picture view. And when you have that 1-0 mentality, it doesn't just become the like, oh, we're going to go 1-0 this weekend. We're going to go 1-0 in this lift, which means how do I make sure I focus on this one lift? How do I make sure I focus on this one meeting as we start to look forward to the next the next game or the next opponent, or I'm reviewing the game. And so it really helps to like micro focus you into what do I need to do right now to be at my best. And that then expands itself out to kind of that stacking week to week, day to day, which we've heard Vegan talk about as well. So yeah, it's just a way, I think, for the guys to hyper focus on the one thing they need to do. And that helps you kind of tune out some of the noise about the pressure. And I think it's one of those things that also will help, if they stay undefeated here deep into November, the pressure is going to ramp up. That's what happens when you haven't lost a game. And at the end of the day, if they're sitting at 11-0 going to Brawl the Wild, then, people are going to be asking you, what's it like being undefeated? And they're like, well, it's the same as being 0-0. We're just trying to go 1-0. You can't win the 12th game without winning the 11th game. So, it's been fun to see, but I think the guys have really bought into it. And with the pain of last year, specifically the pain of watching that senior class last year have their careers ended in the way it did, there's a question. How do we keep that pain from happening again? Well, the answer is by going 1-0 every single day. And if you stack 12 1-0s up during the regular season, then you're going to be in a pretty good place when the playoffs come up.
Oh man, I'm fired up now. I'm a fan though, so I can look ahead. I don't need to go 1-0. I can think about the next
I
four
can
games.
too. I'm media. I have to be looking ahead. I can't be doing that stuff. No.
A crack research I did today. Only one team of the major conferences, if a multi-league bid. So if you look at all the major leagues over of the Frisco era, only one undefeated team has not gotten the 1 seed, and that was Sam Houston State in the shortened 2020 spring.
Interesting. I wonder what it would look like. I mean, it's just Montana State just doesn't have as many ranked opponents on their schedule. I mean, if they go undefeated, will they actually jump NDSU? I don't know that they will.
Yep.
So, I honestly don't think the Cats will be number 2 after this next Saturday.
There's a case for that to be too.
Yep.
I mean, SDSU's got South Dakota at home. If they blow out South Dakota, I mean, the voters could easily jump them over.
Yeah. And Jimmy Rogers did say in his post game, we hope to be back here in December, which I thought was interesting, talking about the Bison.
Yeah.
So
as in, like, you took it as him like saying he's going to be back in Fargo.
Yeah. Oh, he said, he goes, we hope to be right back here in December playing these guys again.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting comment of like, okay, buddy, like I know you guys just lost a pretty emotional game, but you want to be right back there, not in Frisco playing them. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that, Jimmy.
Yeah, we'd love to have them over there.
Yeah, they can stay over there.
Speaking of those guys, we play them Gold Rush next year after
Yes.
playing Oregon.
Yeah, who are the quarterbacks of both of those teams going to be?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a great
Probably
question.
Dante Moore for the Ducks. Probably.
Well, I meant the SDSU. Like,
I guess
they've got their back.
Kanowski's
They've got
done.
their backup who's running around a little bit and scored that big touchdown in this game. But both those teams are going to be drastically different. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Keaton, that might be one of the biggest games in Bobcat history right there, if it all pans out the way we think it's going. Right there.
At least,
Gold
at
Rush
least- yeah, I
with
don't
the
know.
Jackrabbits. Holy cow. Wow. I can't even imagine that. I want to give props, though, real quick,
Ooh.
because
Keaton
you were
just
talking about the
disappeared.
differences, and I'll talk about it. I'm not like we are a fan based podcast. I think Daly and Walker, just the offensive and defensive coordinators, excuse me, I said that in the wrong order right there. It's just been a breath of fresh air, especially Coach Walker. Walker came on our podcast back in February when he was hired, and he was so candid and he gave such good answers. I mean, I'm sure you've been able to talk to him, Keaton, but he has just absolutely, I think, tapped into Tommy in the way he coaches Tommy is refreshing. So, oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking around.
We were just letting you go, man.
Like, when is he
No.
going to notice that Keaton dropped like 30 seconds ago?
Oh,
I was
my-
watching
my
you. You're
bad.
like looking everywhere except at your
At your
monitor.
scene.
I've been trying to keep my thoughts, my train of thought going. I'm like, okay, yeah, never mind.
Like,
Oh,
he
that's
just disappeared
Just
out of
boop.
nowhere. So I assume you're texting him over there,
Yeah,
Zach. It looks
phone
like.
probably died or something like that, or whatever he was on.
Hey, let's have a plan. What else do you guys want to talk to? Because we're running up on the hour, and what
I
kind of?
think we should probably start wrapping it up. There's maybe some Golden Coolie questions for Keaton on Bobcat Nation.
Yeah, we can do that.
Do
All right.
that, and
He
yeah,
said,
I don't want to take too much of his time.
Not sure. My laptop shut down. Booting it back up now.
All
Okay,
right. Just tell him we got about
Yeah.
Sweet.
and we're
15,
rolling right
20
now. I'm
more-
not editing
15
any of
more
this, So
minutes.
let's just keep going. This is a no edit zone.
Oh, we're going no edit right now, huh?
That's right.
Okay.
So just don't
All
say
right.
anything silly.
I got it. I'm gonna roast Foley for a second. I've kind of been mean to you in the group chat, but I'm gonna be mean to you on air now
Okay,
about
I'm not going to atone. I'm just going to
you.
double down.
No, Thorny, you're backing me up on this one.
Maybe.
Foley sent us a very nice thing of being a school teacher, and he sent a photo that they took of his. They asked him some questions, and it looks like it plays in the hall for all the kids to see and stuff and get to know the teachers. And Foley, you had the audacity to say that your favorite place in the world is San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Now,
this
albeit
is-
I've been to San Diego. San Diego's great. I like the beach. I like a lot of things. But when I responded, not Bozeman on a game day, you said still San Diego.
Still San Diego.
still San Diego.
Also, I
Mm.
wish everybody could have seen Foley's face. He did not know what I was going to roast him on.
No, I didn't
Mr.
either.
Foley's favorite place to travel is
Uh-huh.
San Diego, not favorite place to be. Yes, it's still.
But you
favorite
don't live in
place to travel.
Bozeman. You could travel here for game day, man.
I
Yeah,
guess
I
I,
mean, you-
actually didn't think about.
If you put that on the board, that's
Yeah.
fine. But when we
Yeah.
texted you, you should have changed your answer.
You should have
That's the
said,
real
well,
problem. Tell us. No, you still said
what
San Diego
game though?
upon further
What
review.
game? If I'm traveling to Bozeman to watch
shouldn't
us
matter.
play,
the
Northern
Bobcats are taking the
Arizona.
field.
You bungled that as bad as the Big Sky officials bungled the NAU Idaho State call.
oh
If you
gosh,
saw that
Oh,
on Twitter
goodness.
today.
fair. All right, fair.
All right. Speaking of traveling, the three of us will be in Iwu, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Don't want to put you guys on the spot, but I
bring
will
that
be
up.
there.
Yeah, planning on traveling out to the Eastern Washington game, attending the game. Foley and I and Zach and anyone else. There's lots of people going to the game.
It's my birthday present. I convinced my girlfriend. She goes, "What do you want for your birthday at the end of this month?" I was like, "To go to the Iwu game."
That's a diehard right there, folks.
I'm a fan.
Love it. Yeah, that'll be fun. So,
How many
no-
rushing yards do we have against Eastern?
All right, hang on. How many rushing yards? 500.
400? Yeah.
500. That would be awesome.
all right, sorry, not to get political. What's the good? How many times? More. 200 times more. 300 times more. 500
Yes.
probably.
Gaten, you there?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Made it back.
Yeah, I think my computer force updated shut down for some updates. It's a newer computer, and I guess I hadn't turned that off yet because it's something I always turn off because I'm a lot of times doing something like this. So many
That's all
apologies.
It went off the
Nope.
rails real fast.
Good.
we went hard off the rails.
Oh man. All right. Well, yeah. So we were going to ask you some Golden Coolie questions because some of our listeners texted in some questions. One of the ones I thought was really interesting from Rootin' for the Cats says, As a sports optic aficionado, I'm curious, Keaton, what make and model of binocular does Keaton have while calling the Bobcat games?
Yeah, so actually it's a Bushnell, but I'm actually not 100% sure what the what the model is of it or the make of it, and I'm not sure what the specific specs are on it. I know it on the front it says it's a 900-foot wide view, like extreme wide, but that's all I know. I don't know because it was here when I got here. I was a part of the gear. But I love them. So they're really wide. I can see everything very clearly. The biggest thing I'm looking at, because we run so much read option, is did he hand the ball off or not? That's pretty much the exclusive reason I use binoculars, because I need to know if he has the football or not. So that's pretty much why. And then the other part is I'm trying to spot numbers so I can identify guys, like when I'm given the the formation before play. And sometimes I'm checking defense. Like if Leo's saying something, I'm trying to check the defense on, okay, they switched this D line, that D line. Cause it's just way easier to see the numbers through that thing. So yeah. And then, if I see he's going to pass, that's when I'll pull the binoculars off. But if he's running, I'm kind of good to try to see it inside that when he's running between the tackles and whatnot. So, they're Bushnells. They've got a 900-foot wide view, I guess, according to the paint on the front of it, and they're great. It makes life so much easier.
I have a question for everybody, and kind of piggyback off what you just said there. What are your thoughts on the names of Bobcat jerseys? That's a debate raging on Bobcat Nation right now. I'm a fan.
I would love it.
I hate not having them on there. I don't know everybody. I'm never going to know everybody. Get your name on the back of the jersey, please.
Well,
yeah,
Fully,
I agree.
What did you text me about? Can you see Ty McCullough on the sideline? And I said, no, I can't see him from here. And you said, he's number 6.
Number
and I was
6.
like, condescendingly, I was like, I know.
No, I was trolling you there for a moment.
But yeah, no, I'm full for it, especially when you're playing in front of a national audience. Like when I'm watching the NDSU SDSU game, like I don't know who everybody is. I know some of them are, but like I kind of want to know who they are. And no, I think it makes a major difference if you can do that. But I'm not really sure what the reasoning or anything is, but I'm always for names on the back. It makes my job so much easier.
So that's not like a vegan call, or maybe it is a vegan call and you just don't know why.
I don't know. I've never asked
the jerseys.
Yeah, I think
the jerseys from year to year.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a money thing.
Play for the name on the front of the jersey.
Yeah, I don't think it's that.
It's a Jeff Choate thing. Moni says, how does this defense compare to the 21 defense? I believe that squad had 3 future NFL players. What's your thoughts on that, Keaton?
Having not really watched that 21 defense, that was before my time, unfortunately. Not really 100% sure. I do imagine.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't really know what that defense looked like. I mean, I know there's not a Troy Anderson on this team, so I think that's probably the biggest thing that stands out. I don't know what their secondary was like either. I think the secondary has really been impressive, especially considering the last 2 years watching the defense get kind of torn up against some elite when they've faced the elite passers. And I think they showed something against Idaho State when some of the corners were giving up like 6 inches to some of those wide receivers that Idaho State had. So yeah, I think the secondary has been really one of the like kind of quiet stories. I haven't talked too much about it in some of our stuff, but I think the secondary has been awesome. And then the depth on the D line, and they're literally running out hockey line changes. So I think that's really impressive. I don't know how deep they went. But the hockey line changes on the D line is really, really impressive. So without having followed Bobcat football that year, I apologize. That's my quick take on that.
Hey, Foley, for the secondary, the safeties in 21, was that Conkle and Trey Webb?
Trey Webb sounds right, because he transferred, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
no, it wasn't Conkle and Trey Webb. It was Trey Webb and the guy I always make fun of right now, who did not like contact.
I'm not going to name him then. You just continue roast the guy. He's still a Bobcat fan, okay? Well, on Twitter.
Somewhere.
Well, who am I talking
not
about?
On Twitter, so me and Thorny are the ones who are going to get yelled at.
Jeff Manning, there he is. Yellow hair Jeff Manning, yep.
You can come came to work. Done in 21?
I mean, I'm glad he was a Bobcat, but he was never my favorite Bobcat for sure.
Trey Webb had some time in the NFL. Yeah. Cup it.
Well, he was in camp for a little bit.
Real quick. I think the defense is overall, I mean, it's early to tell. I think the defense in 21 was really good because Troy Anderson covered up a lot of the problems. They were still good, but any chinks in the armor was covered up by Troy Anderson being the best athlete on the field at any position at all times.
Oh, we had Daniel Hardy.
Yeah.
We had Amandre Williams rushing
Daniel
the
Hardy,
passer.
go Bears. Always
Yeah,
excited to watch
there
them
you go.
every Sunday.
So
Who was at the game in Portland?
too
Yeah,
simplistic there, Thorny. I think we had some really big dudes on defense that year. But yes, Daniel Hardy or Troy Anderson could erase a lot of the problems. This one's from me. I want to know, what was your favorite call at home from the time you've been at Montana State?
For football?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I don't know that I have like a super favorite one yet. We haven't really had like that moment. You know what I mean? Like on the basketball side, we've had a few of those moments. Obviously, there's been a lot of success, and there's been a lot of fun. And for me on football too, I still feel like I'm kind of finding myself in a lot of ways. I have so many more reps doing basketball than I do football. So in some ways, I'm still kind of finding myself right now. But like the Derek Snell touchdown pass against the Grizz, that one comes to mind for sure. I feel like I got a good like Alaskan assassin in there. That one felt like it was pretty dialed. There was also the touchdown run Tommy had in that game where he ran over the cornerback or the defensive back at the goal line for a touchdown early in that game, and that one kind of stands out. I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I saw that one. That one was fun. Yeah, I think those are kind of some of the ones that are standing out right now. That Scott Drake Humphrey run for the touchdown against Idaho State when he just dislodged that man from his feet. That was pretty sweet. that one was pretty fun. So yeah, as of right now, I think it's still coming. I think there's been a lot of fun ones. But I don't think we've had really, because we haven't really had that moment. Like some of the bigger games have been blowouts, and like the Big Sky Championship in 2022, that was a blowout against them. So that game didn't really have like that moment, So I think we're still, I think there's going to be some good ones coming up here if things stay the way they're going right now.
Yeah. Here's to finding one of those here in the next several games.
Yeah.
The trick play touchdown against Weber in the playoffs in 22, I think was probably my favorite call. Just because I think it caught everybody off guard, and I think you can tell how surprised you were at that one. Yeah, I think everybody was surprised about that.
Yeah, because that was the extra handoff, and then Chambers made that pass from like the left numbers to Willie Patterson on the right side into the frozen ground, and he like dragged that man, and then I had that he gritted his way across the end zone. Yeah, no, that's a good one. That one was pretty money. That was pretty sweet.
Willie, love that guy.
Well, speaking of low energy, how was your first experience at the high school stadium that was Hillsborough Stadium of Portland State? My home high school stadium. So I have watched more games than I think I could ever. I've probably watched 100 games in that stadium.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was fine. That the vantage point for the game is great. It's low and we're at the 50-yard line, so stoked about that. There's enough room in there, so that's nice. There was even a little table for Dylan in the back, which was awesome. So it set up our gear like really cleanly. The window's open, so that part is really nice as well. So yeah, honestly, good. And I'm sorry, like I know a lot of people were talking trash and fine. Yeah, it's not Bobcat Stadium, one of the best stadiums in the Big Sky, sure, but like, I'm sorry, dude. I did 13 years of minor league baseball. Like, there's just there ain't nothing that's gonna faze me when it comes to some of these stadiums. So I'm good. I'm fine. It was all right. It was okay. It's a little tough when I have to share the bathroom with the rest of everybody there. I'm usually good for a 5-hour game, but sometimes you get busy before and you didn't get to time it up right, and you didn't get to time your liquids up right. So that can be a little touch and go from time to time. But
I never even considered that, like food and liquid management for movements and other things.
Do you
Very
just
important
have
in your
like
job
an
then,
empty like Gatorade bottle there, and you just look at Leo and go, just like,
Joe
don't
Buck
look at me right now?
Yeah, no, not quite. I do. I try to really hydrate the night before a game. That's a thing. I feel so much different when I actually hydrate the night before a game. And then that way I can like kind of stop drinking liquids like an hour or two. Scott Hansen's actually talked about this doing like Red Zone. Like he talks about this. It does work. If you like make sure you hydrate, like pre-hydrate, and then you stop drinking liquids like an hour or two before, and then you just have a bottle of water and you just sip it, like just when you need it, you're usually pretty good to go.
I did
Yeah.
not see this
The things you just
conversation
don't
turn in
consider.
this
The
way.
things you
It's a
don't
fair
consider.
question.
I love it.
It's a fair
Yeah, it is.
question, man. But I will tell you, I will give you the story then from this last game. So obviously the bathroom is the bathroom down there. So I tried to time it up with 2 commercial breaks. I gave Leo a read to read and then just take a break and we'll come back. And the lines were so long. I was like, this isn't going to work. And now it's already in my head, so I can't go back up because otherwise I'm not going to make it. So I actually went all the way down to the baseball team store. Like I exited the stadium, walked in there, asked a security guard, is there a bathroom? And I didn't know if he was going to be like, get the hell out of here, or like, no, it's around the corner. And he was like, it's around the corner. I was like, oh, thank God. I didn't even have to go that bad, but now it was like in my head because it was halftime and I was already like doing it and I knew I wouldn't make it if whatever. So I went there, came back up, and I missed that very first play of the second half, and Leo had to call it. Crushed it. He was great, but I'm a little out of breath in that moment, so I'm kind of like, we have a cough button, so it's like a little mute button where if I push it down, it mutes my mic, and then when I lift it up, I'm back. So that way, if I have to like sneeze or cough or clear my throat, like it's just a little something to help that. So I've been in the situation before where I'm like a little out of breath when I'm coming back, and it's really hard to call the game when you're out of breath because you're like, and you don't want everybody hear like, like you don't want to. So I'm hitting it. You take like a big deep breath, and then you make the call, and then you hit it, and you're trying to catch it. And I like to hike. I'm in pretty decent shape, so I can catch my breath pretty quickly. But then like 2 plays later, that Miles Jackson interception occurred. And that's a huge play. Like those are the plays that I prep for all week, knowing that it's his first interception, knowing that it's his hometown, like knowing that it's his high school field, like that's what you prep for all week. And I'm like out of breath while I'm getting ready to make that call. And if you go back and listen, the call is fine. Like it's good. Like I hit everything I want to hit. But that was like just one of those moments where I was like, okay, ready to go. So yeah, that's as bad as it gets. That shouldn't happen, but we'll be all right. It's fine.
How long does it take you to clip? You do such a good job with the Instagram. How long does it take you to go back and like clip all the clips to post to Instagram and socials and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I just screen recorded off YouTube. I don't even download the whole thing. Like I could download everything, but that takes so much time. And so I actually screen record off YouTube, and then I'll pull whatever Montana State posted on Twitter. I'll pull those clips, and then last 2 years I was editing in TikTok. This year I've been editing in CapCut, and so I just open up CapCut, mush them together, and that's it. It's actually pretty quick and easy, which is really a lot of fun because like in college I was a sports media major. Like I took video editing classes, like I had whole classes, and obviously this is like mishmash. Like I'm just mushing it together. That's all you really need. But it doesn't take too long, and I'm usually going back and listening anyway. So I don't know. I try to get something up before we get on the plane on a road game, which I was able to do this week. So I like to try to get like 3 up, so that way I can rotate through the socials. Not that long. Try to just crank it out real fast and script it and rip it.
Nice.
Got one from Colorado Cat says, "What's your what stadiums have the best worst press box?"
Yeah, let's see. Northern Colorado was clean, but really small, like really small. That was tough, but it's clean, so that part is nice, I guess. I'm not a fan of any of the press boxes that have closed windows, even if there's room. So typical press box, like the highest level press boxes, like up to the NFL and Major League Baseball stuff, it's like 2 leveled. So you have like a lower level, and then like a couple steps down, and then a little bit up. And right behind you, that's where like the producers sit and stuff. It's what it's like at Bobcat Stadium. So like Weber has that and Eastern have that, but the windows don't open. And I hate that. I hate not having the windows open. I don't like, a lot of times my voice will echo off the glass because I'm really loud. Like I project really, really loudly when I'm on the air. So sometimes my voice echoes off the glass and it sounds like it's like bouncing around. So Weber and Eastern have that. Portland State was fine. It feels a little high schooly, but just because it's a high school stadium, so that's whatever. I love ours. It's such a perfect spot. It's high enough up and it's right at the 50-yard line, and I find it so comfortable. Sac State was actually pretty good. It's kind of like low. It's a little further back, but it's just got nice sight lines. I'm trying to think what else off the top of my head here. Just running through the other teams in the conference. Haven't been to UC Davis yet, so we'll see what that looks like. Idaho State was not good. That was really tough. They
We were all
closed.
sweating.
Yeah, it gets really hot. It got really hot up there. And the door to my right gets locked because that's where they have the replay officials. So we can't go out that way. So we have to go left, which means we're actually walking out behind the coaches, our coaches who are calling the game. We have to go by them if we're trying to get out that way. So, and then we had people walking behind us like nonstop to try to get out. Like that part kind of stunk. So didn't love that. So yeah, I think that's kind of where that is. I can't think. NAU is nice. NAU is really good. NAU is very solid. Idaho is really good. Both of those places are really solid. You're a little closer to like the goal line. You're closer to like the 35-yard line. But no, both those places are like top tier for sure. Really enjoy those places.
I love Northern Arizona's play-by-play guy, Mitch, right? Mitch
Stroman, yeah.
Yeah, that guy's great.
Yeah, he's a legend, man. He's good people, man. He's really good people.
All right. Is there anything else, Foley? Any more questions?
Yeah,
Wrapping this
just
up soon,
one
I suppose.
more. I think, let's see. Somebody wants to know what's your favorite thing to do in Bozeman. They're asking that question. What do you like to do outside of being the voice for the Bobcats?
Go hiking and take my wife out to dinner.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good answers.
Smart
Good
answer.
answers.
Yeah.
Good answers.
She's not like a foodie, but yeah, she loves to go out to dinner and loves a craft cocktail, and there's a lot of places to be able to do that around here. So yeah, it's great. We have tried not every restaurant in Bozeman, but more than 50%. I can guarantee that. And that's a high number. So, yeah, we love going out to dinner and just enjoying the service and the food. There's an insane amount of good food in this town. And it's
come a long
great.
way.
Yeah. So that part's been awesome. So much fun. And then, yeah, I'm a big hiker. Absolutely love hiking. So yeah, I haven't done too much backpacking around here. I did I did the Spanish Lakes overnight. I did an overnight trip for that right before the season started. I'll definitely get something in this week during the bye week. I was thinking maybe Mount Ellis. I still want to do Garnett Mountain, which I could do still before the snow really hits. I did Highlight Peak during the last bye week. That was sweet.
Love Highlight.
I've got one of the guidebooks around here. I've done something like 30 out of the 110 hikes that are listed in that guidebook for the surrounding area around Bozeman. So, yeah, definitely getting into the mountains as much as I can. And then I like to cross country ski too once the winter comes.
Nice. That's all on Bobcat Nation,
I
man.
miss Bozeman. Damn it.
Yeah, me too, bro. Me too.
This makes me
It's a
want
great
go
place
back.
to be, especially as basketball starts to ramp up, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're so close. 2 weeks.
I can't wait. I'm so
2
excited.
weeks?
Yeah, just about.
Jeez. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's exciting. I'm excited for that too.
I'll add my final thing for the night. President Cruzado, it was kind of funny. I was in the box with her for the New Mexico game. She mentioned that about the windows in the first quarter. She goes, "You can't open the windows here. I want everybody to hear us." And then the wind picked up in the third quarter, and she goes, "Oh, I'm glad the windows are closed." And then we won, and she goes, "I wish we could open the windows again."
Well, if you could open the windows, you could just close them when the wind comes.
Exactly. She's like, "It's not like our place where you can open and close them up there."
Yeah, that New Mexico press box was weird too. The home radio had to walk through our booth to get to their booth, which was strange, and that was funky. Also, the internet didn't work at the start, so Leo made his radio debut recorded, and we had to record the open so that we had more time to troubleshoot. It was just purely New Mexico's internet; there was nothing we could prepare for. And then we had to start the game on the cell phone. And then we had water leaking from the ceiling in the second quarter, starting to land on our gear. Apparently, somebody on the roof stepped on a nail, and there was standing water. So that standing water leaked down onto our gear. So we had to move that and put a bucket underneath. That was a lot, that game.
Yeah, and then we celebrated between the glass with the poor New Mexico guys in the middle. I felt so bad for them.
They're playing better now. They're starting to win some games. So that win keeps looking better and better. And Maine just blew out Villanova. So the schedule's looking better and better now.
Yeah, we need Maine to squeak in the top 25 and New Mexico to keep winning games. That will help us
Definitely
schedule out.
I want to ask selfishly, what was the vibe? What was the energy like for Idaho that night game for ESPN?
Yeah.
Because it looked electric, man. It just looked unreal on TV.
You know when you go to a concert and you stand in front of the speaker That's what it felt like. Like it was just like blow your hair back. It was so loud. And the other part about it too was, it was an 8 o'clock game, obviously. So everybody was getting in a little bit earlier, and it was an 8:15 listed kick time, but really kickoff was 8:25. So that was an extra 10 minutes. So the stadium was like already pulsing like earlier than usual, like that, because everybody was in their seat by like 8. So there was like 20 minutes where everybody was already in there, like pulsing as things were building. So yeah, it was pretty electric. People were pretty fired up. It was packed to the gills, and yeah, it was pretty special for sure.
Ooh. It looks special.
Yeah, I caught myself like kind of straining my voice in like the setup before the rodeo team came out. You guys asked like, do I do vocal warm ups? I don't really do vocal warm ups, but I am aware of my voice because you can just kind of strain it. Like you can like get too much. Like you don't need to shout. You have a microphone. Like there's no need to shout. I'm not. People in Haver don't need to hear me through how loud I talk. So it's like a projection thing. But I did catch myself a little straining on my voice early in that game and had to like tone it down a bit.
Just trying to feel like you needed to talk over the crowd.
A little bit, yeah. And you just like fired out, and sometimes, especially like younger broadcasters, myself included, when I was a younger broadcaster, you think that being louder means it's like more impactful, or like you're like really capturing the moment. But that's not really what it is. It's more like, it's having that like presence and authority over the moment, so you can really deliver it. It's more of like a controlled like projection, like you're projecting your voice rather than just like shouting and going crazy where it sounds like the moment is too big for you. Like I know people kind of like that sometimes, but my goal is to never do that. My goal is to always like command the moment so that I can actually describe what is happening rather than just like blowing my top and screaming my head off, because that's not really, if you're listening on the radio while you're driving around town, you're gonna be like, what the hell is going on?
Do you listen to old Vin Scully casts? And who did you like to listen to growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Chicago, so I had Harry Carey and Chip Carey and Steve Stone were my lead guys for baseball. That was first and foremost for me. And then, I've listened since I went into broadcasting. I've listened to everything. So I've listened to a ton of Vin Scully. His 9th inning of the Sandy Koufax perfect game is just pure art. It's a perfect example of that you give to any broadcaster about painting the picture and meeting the moment and bringing the presence to a moment like that. So I've listened to a lot of that. But yeah, I could probably give you like a scouting report on almost every major league broadcaster, TV and radio. Like I've listened to everybody. Because I've had MLB TV for, I don't know, years, so I've listened to all of it. I think Brian Anderson right now on the Turner broadcasts is one of the best in the biz. I've shadowed him a couple of times up when he's doing Brewers games, but he just has such command, and he's unique in what he says. He doesn't hit you with a lot of cliches, but also doesn't try to get too like flowery and cute, like he's trying to dress something up. Like he just hits it. He's really, really good. I think Howie Rose on Mets radio is unbelievably talented. His stuff is so good. He's so detailed. He's so well prepared. He gives you such a 30,000 foot view. You listen to his game and you feel like you know everything happening in Major League Baseball and everything happening in the context of like Mets history. It's so impressive. Adam Amin is another guy that I've come up with. We went to college together. He's doing Bulls TV and some regional games for NFL regional games on Fox now. He just did the Lions Vikings game this week. He's a guy that I've known for years, and we've traded a lot of tape. So we have a lot of the same style and just how we prepare and how we kind of go about trying to put together the Mad Libs of a broadcast. I think that's the best way to describe it, because like, you could apply this to football, but the easiest way to do it is apply it to baseball, where like, how many ground balls to shortstop have you seen, right? I could say ground ball to shortstop, routine play to first, right? Like that's okay, whatever. But the real skill is like every ground ball is different, right? So how are you going to describe that? Where, like, was it a bouncing ball? Was it hit hard? Did he go to his left? Did he go to his right? Did he have to throw off balance? Did he set his feet? Was it a good throw? Was it a bad throw? And in basketball too, it's like, I'm always trying to hit who has the ball, where are they on the court, and what are they doing with it? How do you describe that every time? And when I was young, I would go back and listen and just like, okay, here's 10 different ways to describe a pass. Here's 10 different ways to say scored. Here's 10 different ways to say, this part of the court, and like lay out all of that stuff. And then, the other thing too is like, some people will say like, oh, you need like a signature call, or like, what's your signature call? And the goal for me is like never really to have one, like the late great Stuart Scott was so good at this, where, he would have great turns of phrase that were just his, but it wasn't just one, and he would only bust them out when it mattered, or like when it really stuck to the moment. Because you don't want to insert yourself into the story as the broadcaster, same way as like an official or referee. I want the play itself to rise to the surface when you're paying attention, or you're listening, or you're going back and following it, not, oh, Keaton called that. You want like, oh, that's just what happened. So I try not to like have like a signature phrase that I over and over go back to over and over again, because it's like that to me would just be like a crutch phrase, like you're just using it as a crutch. So yeah, I've listened to a lot of guys and I've stolen a lot of different things, but I've taken something from pretty much everybody, and even guys people haven't heard of. Like I trade stuff with a lot of my other broadcaster buddies who are around the country right now and doing stuff. So I'm always listening to what I like and what I don't like, and just trying to make sure I'm myself. Because back to the Vin Scully point, one of the best pieces of advice he's given out to people was like, there's only one you. The only unique thing you can bring into the broadcast booth is yourself, and that's the most important thing you can do when you're doing these games.
Perfect. That was a great breakdown. I'd never thought about that, especially with the ground ball.
Yeah,
some of the best stuff we've ever heard on the RnR CatCast right there.
Hey man, anytime, bro. I think
you
about this stuff all the time.
You did make me think, and this is totally a downer moment, but I thought it was a great call from you, was when the kick was blocked against North Dakota State. I went back and listened, and you just had the game over, season over. Poor RJ rips his headset off.
Yeah.
Had you thought, how am I going to call this if this is it, or was it, did you have a couple things in your head? Were you thinking about those things, or knowing that this could be the end of the season?
Yeah. So, I yes and no. You're always constantly keeping that what if in your mind of like, you're trying to keep in your head of like, what's on the line here now in this moment. So it's not so much like what happens. I'm not thinking so much like, what am I going to say if they lose? It's more like, I'm really trying to just feel what this moment is and like understand what's on the line. And that call I am pretty proud of, honestly, for a lot of reasons. A, when you sign up to be the voice of a team, you sign up for the good and the bad, and to be there for what was the bad, that's important. And so I'm grateful to be there, even if it was a down moment. B, I was accurate. I was on time. I didn't give any fluff. It was right there. And C, it was a very surgical call in a lot of ways. And I did have some, even my friends who aren't Bobcat fans, text me like, "Ooh, dude, that was like, that kind of cut deep." I was like, yeah, because that moment did cut deep. And the reason that was such a like a gut punch of a call, and it was so like, it was kind of punchy, was because that's what that moment was, and that's what everybody was feeling, I think, in that moment. So yeah, in a lot of ways I am very proud of that call, because it was no fluff, it was accurate, and I think it encapsulated the emotion that a lot of Bobcats fans were feeling in that moment, because it was such a there was such a finality to that block. And I know we're bringing up some tough stuff, but yeah, it's just the way it is, man. This is life. This is being a fan of a team, and that pain has set up what we're witnessing this year. And so far, it's been a lot of good moments. So yeah, that's what you sign up for, man.
I was standing right under that goalpost in that end zone, and I can still hear the ball getting blocked. I still can hear it. Like, I know the sound, like that sound just rings with me. I'm like, oh. Because I was kind of watching, and you just hear the sound, and it was blocked.
Yeah.
Like, it was just I didn't even see where the ball went. It's just like I heard the sound, and so yeah. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. But yeah,
Zach, it's such a great question, and it brings up such strong memories. Keaton is exactly right. It was such a final moment. It was like, oh, it's over now. It's over. Like, there's no more. It's done, and the flood of everything after that, like, oh, we have to wait, and where are we going with this? But yeah, such a good call, because we couldn't make that call. Like, you're a pro, like you have to like be on point in that moment. We're crying over here, yelling, screaming cuss words, and you're delivering such a good dialed call, man. That's so cool.
It's the prep, all of it comes down to prep and reps. For anybody who's a young broadcaster who wants to get into this thing too, it's all prep and reps. That's the only thing. Like I wasn't good when I started. I promise I was not good when I started. You just have to see more things. And, to tie it back to baseball again, just because I did 1,500 plus minor league games in my life. There would be times where it was a funky play. You can go to the ballpark every day and you see something different, and it'd be a funky play one day, and I'd go back and I'd listen, like, wow, I really butchered that. Like, that was not right. I was all over myself. I wasn't smooth. I was behind. I didn't have command of the moment, and it just sounded like crap. And you go back and you listen, you're like, all right, so how would I call it? Okay, here's where I screwed up. Here's why I would be better. This is a different way you could describe that. And then the next time that play comes up, you're ready for it. And then that's the actual like play by play. And then telling people the context of that moment, that punch of that adjective after, the Rohan call this last week when he stripped off everybody, Rohan Jones would not be denied, that's what it was. He would not be denied that moment. He was going to take everybody. He would have taken 22 dudes into that end zone. He would not be denied in that moment. And so the fine line of being able to hit accurately, the emotion and the strength of a play and a moment in time, while not getting
flowery and trying to get cute with it and trying to write some Walt Whitman prose or some stuff, no, you want to just be accurate. And I'm not trying to be the writer and I'm saying the most profound thing in the world and everybody's going to be so impressed with my vocabulary. No. Just say what the moment is and just give the context for the moment and just be accurate. And that's the thing. Again, it comes down to prep, what it means to people, talking to people, understanding the emotion of what's on the line, and then just reps. I've just seen a lot of games. I've seen a lot of plays.
Man, I feel like I could talk about this for a while. It's interesting stuff.
Hey man, whatever you need, man. I can break this stuff down all day. This is what I talk to my friends about. I've broken down all of the Major League Baseball playoffs with some of my other buddies. I can tell you everything.
It's awesome.
Had you heard the Miracle Missoula call before you got the job at MSU?
No.
Because again, every Bobcat here knows that the Bobcats hold. Rings. What was kind of when you got the job? When was the first time you heard that, or kind of wow, that was a call?
Not really leading up to my first brawl. When I first got the job, I went back and watched some of the playoff games just to see them because they were online, and I just needed to see something and start to get a feel for anything. So I watched the playoff run. That was the first thing I did. And then at that point, it was such a breakneck pace to get to know everything. Cause I got called about this job early June of 2022. I got offered I guess that was mid-June. And then I got offered late June. And then had another week of things and then ended up taking it a week after. So it was kind of around end of June, early July. And then I was still in baseball season. I was still doing a baseball game every day. So then I only got out here 2 weeks before the season started. I had done 120 minor league games, packed in my car, found an apartment, and just got out here and just started going to work. So I only had 2 weeks to get ready. And then of course basketball season starts before the brawl. So I hadn't heard any of it. I really just didn't have much of it. It was very much what's 6 inches in front of my face that first year while I'm just trying to figure everything out at that moment and just get settled. And, I was so used to having a little bit of a break in October after baseball, because usually basketball kind of actually blends into baseball. So by the time November had rolled around, I was on 12 and a half, 13 months straight of work. And I just didn't really know what was up and what was right and what was left.
All right, man. That's the last question I'm going to ask you tonight. That was awesome.
Yeah, man.
I just sitting back enjoying it all. I love it, man. Hey, man, we really appreciate you. This was a lot of fun for us. So, wow.
Happy to do it, man. Happy to talk about it. I'm thinking about this stuff all the time anyway. So, and it's just something a lot of people haven't thought about. And, the other part, I'll finish with this. There's a lot of people who might like a broadcast or dislike a broadcast, and they might not really know why. There are reasons why, and I can explain them. I've broken it all down. I promise I've broken it all down. There are reasons why you like one thing better than you like the other, I promise. But
interesting.
Yeah, people do prep and they just care. It's
That's really what it comes down to. And really grateful to have the team we have with Dylan and what he does in terms of set up the gear. And I'm really excited to have Leo continuing to get better and learning what he's doing and figuring this thing out and getting better and better every week. And to have the history of Dan Davies down on the sideline, of Hall of Famer, being down there and being a part of this thing. Like, we've got a really great crew, and working with Brian Preby for basketball. We've got a really great crew, and Learfield is really invested in our broadcasts, and we are fully funded with top line gear and with a crew that really cares. So, it's easy for me to make those great calls when I know everybody else around me is doing their job, and we're able to put together a complete broadcast week in, week out. It's a lot of fun, and you don't get that everywhere. And, I grew up in Chicago, and my goal my whole life has been to work in professional sports. But if I'm not the voice of the Bears, this is the second best thing, I promise. This is pretty special, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, you get to call a lot more wins here.
Now, you can only win one at a time, baby. You can only go 1-0.
1-0. Well, we're glad you're here calling those 1-0 games. We appreciate it. You're doing a great job.
Thanks. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's a privilege, man.
Awesome. All right, Foley, want to get us out of here?
That's not my job. That's Thorny's.
Yeah, I'm the exit guy. Well, I guess at the end we'll do the Go Cats thing. We should go in order. Guest first. No, you want to do Keaton for last? Yeah, we'll do Keaton last. You, me, Foley, Zach, Keaton. At the Go Cats at the end. I'll prompt you. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to our show here. I really appreciate Keaton coming on. That was a lot of fun. Thanks to our sponsors this year. Really appreciate the support from all the listeners and everyone finding our show here. You can always find us on the web, RnR Catcast. You can find us on Twitter, X, RnR Catcast. You can find us on Instagram, RnR Catcast. And all right, let's get out of here. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.